Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the On Call Coaches podcast, where we dive deep into the world of amateur player development, private skills coaching, and video training. I'm your host, Coach Switzer.
And I'm Coach Zane.
How's it going today, Coach Zane?
Doing great, doing great. How about yourself?
Pretty good. What did you think of morning groups this morning?
It was a lot of fun. Worked on one-on-ones down on my end, angling people towards the boards. You know, if somebody's skating right at you, how to make that move when somebody's skating at you. It's a little intimidating when somebody's coming down at you 100 miles an hour, but it's actually the easiest person to beat. It's one little 1-2 move, fake left, go right, or right, left. So it's actually a pretty easy move, but you have to stay calm. And a lot of the kids were kind of freaking out when person's barreling down at them, and all of a sudden, they forget what they're doing. And then in big boy hockey, that's a bad situation to be in.
Makes you easy to hit.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I was always impressed at how many high schoolers get up that early before school to come see us.
I'm with you. 6 a.m. in the morning is you got to answer the bell.
Early bell.
And there's no messing around in our skates. You know, those early morning skates,
sure.
You know, they got to be up and ready to work at that point.
All right. Today, I want to talk about how to get back to the top after a level up. What I mean by this is I just hit my goal and I made my team. Now I'm back to one of the lowest on the team. How do I get back to the top? What does that look like, Coach? Break it down.
All right. So when you get leveled up, you're coming into a new locker room typically, or a new team, whatever sport that may be. Make sure you're paying attention and aware of the culture that's in that locker room, the culture from that team. You know, you're coming in kind of at the bottom, unless you like move cities and you truly should be at that level. That's a different scenario.
That's not level up.
We're not really talking about that. But you come in working hard. Number one, don't be a problem. Like I've seen so many kids that come into teams that were the top dog that could get away with a little bit extra. The coaches, gave them a little bit more leash. And they walked into that next team expecting they still had that leash, and it is not there.
Don't shoot pucks after whistles.
And even with trying to do the extra move in practice, to do we talked about it a week or so ago on the podcast of flashy versus fundamentals. And all of a sudden they come out there and they're trying to be super flashy, where you just need to put your nose to the grindstone and just work. And put in the work, prove yourself. That's the other thing. Coach typically doesn't know you. They might know you a little bit. I mean, they took you on the team, so they've done a little bit of research on you, but they don't really know you. Make sure you're communicating with that coach. Make sure you're developing a relationship with that coach. And not just on the ice. Make sure you're talking to him afterwards. Coach, what can I be working on? What things are you seeing in my game? And start get the feel for the land and where you are on the team. And then you can introduce some of that flash once you get comfortable and you've got your spot. But I've seen too many kids that get picked and they think that they're going to walk in and just be a first line player on that next level up, and it's just not there.
No, you say go to coach and you're asking these questions. When do they go? Because I don't think right away. I think you still got to find your stride on the team and just work your way in a little bit and just kind of head down and work hard. And
number one, just go and work.
Yep.
Just put in the time. It's no different than the person who gets a new job and walks in and is asking well, how do I get a promotion?
No, exactly. When's my first raise?
Buddy, you've been here for 3 weeks. Just work. Just put in the work. Make sure you're not missing things. Like if there's extra stuff that the team's doing, off-ice training, workouts, video sessions, make sure you're present. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're engaged. Make sure you're a part of that team. That's not only going to help you on the ice or on the field, but also in the locker room. You're going to develop a rapport with the players, respect from the players. You don't want to be that new guy that also is missing, summer skates or something like that.
Well, you want to dive in. You know what I mean? You want to dive in, get a part of the team.
Yeah.
You don't get that from missing things.
No. So making sure that you're there, you're present, that you're engaged in all of those activities and practice. And then just play your game and keep it simple. Play your game, working hard. And then back to your question of when month or two into the season, you can start having those conversations. The coach knows you then. The coach has
training camps and all that.
They've watched you skate a bunch of times. You've had your good days. You've had your bad days. And the coach kind of knows where you're at average-wise of where you're going to play and then what can we work on.
How long should you expect till it takes till you're back at the top of a new team when you've leveled up?
From what I've seen, So we'll take a real world example. I've seen a kid level up from like an A1 player into a Central States role.
Yep.
First year, third line defenseman, getting a decently normal shift, but not getting the power play, not getting the penalty kill time, then getting a little bit of it by the end of that first year. I think it's really that second year, because then some of those top players move on to let's say AAA or whatever it may be. Then you can take more of that leadership role. You start going into first line, second line D, first line, second line power play and penalty kill. You're just getting that ice time.
Coach has built some trust in you too. That's 100%. The other thing.
Yeah. So I think it does take some time.
Yeah.
Unless you are just such an amazing player and you've got something that's needed. We had that with the one player who came up to AAA from like an A2.
Yeah.
What we needed was
do what you do.
We need a left-handed defenseman.
Yep.
And we all know that on defense, having a left-handed shot on the left side and a right-handed shot on the right side, that person just fit that piece, and we needed it, so that person got extra playing time pretty early on, with a huge jump.
Just because he's a lefty.
But we didn't have an answer to the test other than that. And so some of it is also the scenario that you're in, but also be ready to answer the bell when you get your chance. There's going to be injuries, especially in a sport like hockey. Somebody's going to go down with an injury. Somebody's going to get a concussion or a broken collarbone or whatever it may be. When that chance comes, make sure they can't take it back from you. Take advantage of that opportunity, play your heart out, do what you need to do, and make it very difficult for that coach to make that decision when that person comes back of who's getting that spot.
All right. Now I'm going to flip it to you as a coach.
Okay.
Kid just leveled up. Got to get him to the top. Where do you start? What are you starting with? Where you go?
One, just kind of the same as the player. Like, let's get him into the culture, make sure he's fitting with the teammates. You don't want him on an island. I've seen that before where a player comes into a team and the team's already been established for a couple of years, let's say at the AAA level, and we want to make sure that person is comfortable. You can't perform your best until that.
As a private skills coach.
Oh, it's a private. Okay.
Yeah. How are you helping?
Out of that.
Yeah. You're that private skills coach for a player who just leveled up.
Big one is watching the game at that level and getting them up to the speed of that level. Decision making is a big one in that, and keeping it simple where see the pass, make the pass. See the shot, make the shot. Don't try to overdo it. Make the simple play, execute. And watching where they're having trouble with that, and a lot of that is watching their games and watching their film of saying, oh, well, you're having trouble in this scenario. Let's really attack that. Let's clean that up, and then moving on to the next and the next. But a lot of it is simple skill work of fundamentals and, going from there.
That's kind of where I like to start too, is that fundamentals. You got to be good at the basics faster.
Yes.
First, you can't be a negative to the team. So let's get the breakout pass catching a little bit quicker, a little bit on and off our stick. Let's get our footwork a little cleaner, get our shot a little quicker. But just start with the basics first, and you just got to get them a little bit faster, in my opinion, through all those plays that we talked last week, that the 20 times a game plays. You got to get it just a little bit faster so that it comes a little easier to you.
Well, and you see at that next level, let's say a breakout, for example, they come around the net and they stare at that winger for that extra second.
Yeah.
Well, the AAA player picks up on that, and all of a sudden,
a D's pinching down.
They're reading your eyes, and they're like they're licking their chops, and now you've set up your winger to get crunched.
Yeah.
All because you were staring at him, as you're coming around the net. Where at the level below that, perfectly fine. That player's not in danger. That pass is there. You make the pass. They pass to the center. We're out of the zone. At AAA, we got to make that pass a little bit sooner.
Yeah, for sure.
Or don't be staring at him the whole time, and telegraphing your pass where they saw it on ESPN the night before. Like those D read that so well and so fast now.
Nice, nice. Well, this will kind of fade in nice to our interview later today. We talked to her. She went to college, played college ball, and then had to get back to the top of that team coming from high school. Started at the bottom, getting to the top. So I thought this folded in nice with that convo. Before we jump to that, I want to jump into a quick 10-second break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll meet you back after that.
Thanks, Switz.
See ya.
Calling all hockey players. Fine-tune your skills before the Blue Note Cup with St. Louis Hockey Training's mid-season tune-up camp. It's perfect for sharpening your skills before the final push to the Blue Note Cup Championship. Spots are limited. Sign up now at stlht.com. All right, everybody. I'm excited to introduce our next guest. She was a rock-solid NCAA D1 goalkeeper at Troy University. After college, she took a break from soccer and built a beautiful family that includes 5 darling children. 6 years ago, she rejoined the soccer world as a coach, and she did it with the same passion and fury as when she played. First serving as the executive director at Coast Soccer Club, and then Southern Mississippi Soccer Club, eventually stepping up as the director of coaching for Jackson County and overseeing goalkeeping development. She's also leading the charge as the head coach of the Valencine High School girls soccer team. Her expertise, dedication, and love for the game has made her a major influence on athletes in the Mississippi soccer community. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pumped to welcome Coach Jessica Maddox. Jessica, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I know I butchered that high school's name, so if you'd give it a shout out with the correct pronunciation, I'd appreciate it.
It's actually Van Cleve High School, and I've actually stepped down from the head coach there so I could be around my kids' sporting events a little bit more.
I get that
Yeah.
totally. I get that. How are you enjoying your free time, or your free time with the family now?
Sure. With 5 kids, I don't know how much free time there is,
Yeah.
but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying getting to go to basketball games, football games, and then my youngest daughter plays on the Van Cleve Middle School team, so getting to watch her a little bit's been really nice.
Oh, nice. Now let's dive in first to your time at Troy.
Yes.
How long did you play? You played all 4 years? Is that correct?
Correct. I played all 4 years. Went in as a freshman and played 4 years, no red shirt. Just went all the way through.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, when you got to college, I guess I'll start with what's the big difference switching from high school soccer to now you're in a college soccer world?
Absolutely. I think personally for me, a lot of athletes, especially I think at any level, doesn't matter, junior college, Division I, all the way in between, you're typically the best person on your team at your high school level or your travel team level. And when you go into the college, it was almost sticker shock because now everybody was there. And so it's just a totally different environment. The intensity is different. The practices are different. I thrive on things like that. So it was a lot of fun for me. I really loved jumping in 3 a day, 6:30, weight training and getting it done and traveling. But it was a definite different experience.
You enjoyed the structure of that college athletics. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we find that a lot with a lot of the higher level athletes when we talk to them, that high school they had more free reign. They became the best athletes because they had that structure on themselves and discipline to continue to grow and progress as a player. In college, everybody's been doing that, so now it's a whole nother level of structure, and the team puts in that structure also. The whole program is structured, not just an individual where you're getting out, some coaching outside or doing extra workouts. That was on yourself more in the high school world, and then college it really steps it up where the whole team's doing it.
Absolutely.
So then I'll ask the next question. How do you separate yourself from the pack when everybody's so structured and so disciplined, and you know what I mean? How do you get ahead from everybody?
Well, that's a really good question. So a little bit easier for me being a goalkeeper since there's only one on the field, but you're obviously competing because typically in a college environment, when a goalkeeper set in the field, there's no subbing. There's very few programs that sub a goalkeeper in and out throughout the game. So if you're starting, you're playing. So you really have to stand out. So for me, I think the biggest thing is taking a lot of those disciplines that I grew through travel soccer in high school, of putting in the extra work when other people weren't, because there's always somebody who's working harder than you.
Yep.
So being able to go out there and do extra workouts, extra runs, extra camps, anything extra, pulling coaches aside. And that is even one of the things that I talk to about. So on my elite travel team that I coach, I tell the girls all the time, look, you're only going to get so much from me in a team environment. Make sure that you're speaking to your high school coaches, myself, if you're going to ID camps or whatever it is, and asking those questions. What do you see? Where can I improve? Thrive on that constructive criticism. Thrive on someone saying, you're doing good here, but you can grow in this department, and then setting those goals and going after them. So for me, it was always setting goals. If I didn't like that I was struggling with nearsighted shots, then I worked on nearsighted shots. If I didn't like that I was struggling with, accuracy of goal kicks, I focused on that until I hit my mark, and then I moved on to the next thing.
Gotcha. So it's kind of your development was more hitting the things that you're struggling with and building your weakest points first, not keep continuing your strongest positions. Is that kind of what you were saying?
For me, yes.
Yeah,
So
I agree with it.
Not saying I was super strong, but I think from my mindset, I always felt that you can always get better at anything.
Mm-hmm.
And and naturally going after those moments. So if I felt there was something that I was struggling with or something that I could get better at, I wanted to get better at it.
Sure. Now, what kind of advice would you give for a player that's making that transition from high school to college? What kind of veteran advice do you have for them?
I think it's a great question.
It's my
a
job.
lot of times, it's a really good question. Work hard, don't slack off, follow the regiment, do a little extra. No, but for real, I think it is one, have fun. It's just a game. It doesn't matter what level you're going at. It's just a game. At the end of the day, if you're not having fun, then why are you doing it? And since it is such an integral part of your life to get to that point, enjoy the memories and the moments that you're making. But at the same time, set those goals, set those standards, and work hard towards them, just like you did to get to where you're going. I think one of the things, if I could go back, I joke around with my kids a lot. They'll say, oh, did you go to this school? Or you go to that school? I said, sweetheart, I got on the bus and I got off the bus. Got on the field and I got back on the bus. Like, I wish if I could go back and talk to younger college Jessica, I would have enjoyed the travel experience that I had and the moments more than just over focusing on the games, because I can't tell you every outcome of every game I ever played, but the times that I did experience the team culture, I did experience that's what I remember. And that's what I enjoy the most as an adult coaching.
Sure.
Yeah. And being a goalie, you have to be hyper focused. Any little mistake is a goal.
Yeah, you don't get that 16 other guys behind you ready to stop them because you
we talk about that a lot in hockey. Like, the forwards are just a big ball of mistakes. They make mistakes. If it works, great. If not, try it again. It's 1 out of 10 chances, and hockey ends up in a goal. So there's 9 times. It's worse than a baseball batter. Like, 9 out of 10 times we don't score in hockey. And then defense, if you make a mistake, it's like, all right, I still got my goalie. Come on, goalie. And when you're the goalie, if you make a mistake, all eyes are on one person.
Yeah.
So that mental,
only the back of the net behind you.
yeah. And so all that focus has to, mentally prepared for every game, every time you step on the field. It's so much more intense on a goalie than other players because of that. So I'm sure that also influenced your how you were preparing for games compared to other players, how you were getting ready, even the night before, the day before, making sure that you're ready to be the best goalkeeper that you can possibly be for yourself and for your team.
Absolutely. And we're talking, I don't want to say how old I am, but it was a while ago that I played. And I think what's really nice about now and the athletes who are coming up and going into college and more elite teams is the awareness of that mental health aspect of it. And as a goalkeeper, whether it's hockey, soccer, or a pitcher in baseball, there is a mental health aspect of saying, okay, I need to be hyper-focused, but I also need to be okay to grow within that failure. And how can I find growth and not make my failures define me? Which can be very hard because you can get swept into that, oh, I got scored on, oh, we lost by 1, oh, that's on me. No, how as a coach or as a player can I redirect that attention and that mental mindset to be about, okay, what can I learn from this? I can't do anything about what happened, but what can I do next to improve that moment if it happens again?
Yeah, we always talk about short-term memory loss in those pressure positions, that like you can't change what happened, but how can we learn from it? And also recognizing that there was a bunch of mistakes that led to that shot on goal that went in, and they're sometimes not always the best. Coaches aren't always the best at looking back and saying, oh, we had the mistake here as the forwards or the striker, and then the midfielders and then the defense, and that ultimately turned into a shot on goal. But there was a whole stack of mistakes. It wasn't just one person making a mistake.
Absolutely.
I gotta ask, as a goalie, did you have any superstitions? In hockey, we always did you have any when you played? Give us a superstition that you had.
I mean, some really, really silly ones. My socks.
Okay.
Like, don't touch my socks.
I get it.
And if the manager, I did let the manager wash them a few times, and someone, I feel, stole them, and it really messed up my game.
Well,
So I no longer let the manager wash my uniform, my socks.
That's so funny. So then you started taking everything home and doing your own laundry?
I did because I didn't want the second string keeper to steal my socks.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, throw your good luck
Those are
charms
my
out of the window.
socks. That's awesome.
Right. So, yeah.
I'm looking to
Yeah.
transition and start talking about developing young soccer players in the positions you're at. Right now, it looks like you're the technical director for Jackson County and goalkeepers. Tell me a little bit about that role and what does that entail?
Well, yes. So I am the technical director for the goalkeepers. I have another staff member that works a lot of hands-on with the goalkeepers, which is very, very helpful for me. And then the technical aspect for our Jackson County, I just kind of, like I said, I've kind of stepped back on some of those roles recently just so I could be around. My kids are now getting older and in a lot more activities, but I oversee just making sure fields and things like that. But when it comes to goalkeepers, I like to work with our staff to make sure that our trainings and our camps it's the most, in my opinion, the most technical position on the field. It is, you have to dive a certain way, you have to move a certain way, you have to be prepared a certain way, probably just like with keepers in hockey. So making sure that my staff members know how to coach it, how to teach it, and how to do it in a way that is enjoyable, especially for younger keepers. I truly believe that I'm enjoying the season of life where I get to coach girls that were born in 2009, and they travel. They do a very good job. They're a very good team. I'm enjoying coaching that aspect of it, but it's the younger kids where you're really going to grow a program and you're really going to grow. So being able to work with younger goalkeepers when I'm doing keepers and working with our younger programs to make sure that we have the right staffing and we have the right coaches and we have the right organization to really not only keep the players in the programs, because we are losing a lot of youth players in those younger programs, but also giving them the right coaching at the right time so they can grow to be what I get to coach now, which is a lot of fun.
Nice.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. In hockey, sometimes we struggle with finding like who's going to be the goalkeeper. Like, how do you do that in soccer at those younger ages? How do you? Everybody tries it once. Like,
who doesn't close their eyes like hockey?
Yeah.
If you don't close your eyes when the puck comes, you're a goalie.
Yeah. How do you find those keepers out of the mix of, or do you have people that like the girls that show up and are like, nope, I want to be a goalkeeper, like from day one?
Right. A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Okay.
So the way I would pick a goalkeeper and the way somebody else would pick a goalkeeper obviously is going to be different. I think there's unfortunately a mindset, especially with younger rec soccer, where the slower, larger kid gets put in the goal. And that's unfortunate because that might not be the position for them by any means. And I truly believe that the most athletic person is the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Hands down. And sometimes you struggle because you see the most athletic person who's also scoring the most goals or being able to make the better runs or the better plays on the field, but you put him in the goal and it's rock solid. And I'm sure just with hockey, obviously you want to win, you want to score more goals to win, but if you're letting everything go in, you're going to lose. So there's that. So for me personally, at the younger ages, so our club, and I think any youth club should do this, we do rotate. We constantly rotate. I do not pigeonhole a player under the age of U12 into a position. It's
Wow.
just, and I don't even like pigeonholing them into a position even above that. Even my girls who are sophomores, juniors in high school, I'm still moving them around during training or during games when I feel it's appropriate, because they're going to go into a college program and a college program is going to say, look, we need a defensive back. We need a 2, we need a 3. And you're telling me you only play a center back. That's not going to work. So how can you adjust and how can you know all the positions so that you're the best player on the field?
Now, listen to you describe your job now. Do you find yourself coaching coaches more or coaching players more? It sounded like you find yourself coaching coaches to help the players more. Is that was I getting that right?
A little bit of both. So it just depends on which hat I'm wearing. So I really, really thrive in teaching other people how to go out and teach, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even if it's my players. Like for me, my coaching style, I'm not going to go out there. I'm going to set up a great training session. I'm going to be super prepared. I'm going to make sure that it flows and it has an objective and we're getting things done the way we're supposed to be getting things done. But the whole time I'm doing it, I'm preparing those players to solve the problems during the game. And I think any good coach is going to do that because I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to, we call it joystick coaching.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm sure you've seen in hockey, it's that coach that just doesn't let the players make the decisions. But
Shoot,
if
pass.
they're not willing to make decisions, then they're not willing to grow.
Well, and you're not allowing them to grow. Yeah, when you give them the easy button and tell them what to do, I don't think that even allows them to grow.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you have to be allowed to fail sometimes
Mhm.
too. Like you have to be allowed to make that wrong decision, and then we'll learn from that, and that's okay. You know that's how you grow. We all make mistakes. It doesn't matter if it's in sports or life or whatever else. We make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, and as I tell our players, like my goal is that you don't make the same mistake twice. That we learn from it, and the next time we try something different. And
Absolutely.
hopefully that works better for you then.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that across the board in anything that I do, whether it's with my children or life. And I tell my players all the time, I'm never going to yell at you or make you run if you make a mistake. If you're giving me your 100% and you are truly trying and you're making those, half a second, millisecond decisions and you make a mistake, you made a mistake. But what are you going to do with it next? Now, if you're going out there and you're loafing it and you don't care and you're being disrespectful, that's a whole different scenario. But I think one of the biggest problems with coaches in that retrospect is somebody who looks like they're not trying. It actually sometimes they don't understand. And that looks very similar. So as a coach going on to a training session, I have a player who isn't giving her 100% and isn't doing what I know she's capable of doing. I have to step back and say, is it because she doesn't understand what I'm asking of her, or she truly isn't trying? And then having that conversation, and usually I like to use guided questions and to see if they understand what we're doing. Do they understand the activity? Do they understand the purpose of the activity? Do they understand the outcome? And then we readjust if needed, and we go on.
When you're prepping for a year in your technical director role, I'm guessing you have to have like a season plan. How do you kind of break the season down so you get to teach everything you want to teach and you don't get stuck on something like that? Are you making those plans? How do you do that for the year?
Absolutely. So I like to base a lot of things off of periodization. So making sure that when we throw the whole season out there and we know what tournaments we're going to go to, and we're as a club, we've set that up. And so that we can go in as the technical directors and say, okay, this is where we are on our age appropriate level. So, and I'm sure hockey is very similar. So in soccer, we have different standards of what technical aspects we should be reaching at a certain age. Mm-hmm. And then how does that fit into our scope and sequence of the season? And then once we kind of get that laid out of the basis of, we're going to build up from the back. So maybe we're going to work on attacking and we're going to work on more tactical for half the week. And then we're going to do the technical, or how are we going to mix that into the session? So a lot of times I like to build out from the back. Are we going to start with attacking, building up from the back, going to the middle third, into the attacking third, and then maybe we reverse. Now we're defending from the attacking third to the middle third to the defensive third. And then once we have that scope of understanding what the season's going to look like, I plug in periodization. So are we coming off a tournament where we are negative 196 hours because we played 4 games over a weekend? And how do I adjust my training session? Is it a recovery session? Are we going to go hard because we're completely recovered and we're going to add in fitness with it? So that gets, and then from there, once we get the periodization and that's my objectives and everything are in there, then about, you break it down, and this is more from the coach's aspect, then you break it down even more detailed until you get to a true training session.
So when you're developing those players, you mentioned a bunch of different aspects of how you're developing those players in that, and I love that. So let's take your high school age team that you're coaching. What in a week, what would that look like? Like, what would a week in their life in soccer look like, from a training, from weight rooms to, you were talking fitness, to actual on-field training, any video aspects, anything like that? What does that look like
for that high level player?
Yeah, for that high level player.
So for the high level player, I'm gonna watch my words here. And where we live is different from where in St. Louis, let's say, or North Carolina, or even Atlanta, where you have these high school programs that are really set up like almost college programs. Not only do we have them 5 days a week, but we've got female training rooms, soccer training rooms, weight rooms, and so forth and so on. And we have the video capabilities. And then you have to break it down, high school versus travel. So I find down here that the club program, because you're able to grab the best players from all the high schools in our area and put them on one team, that's where you're going to get that really high level elite playing group. And so within that group, we only get them 3 days a week around here, unfortunately.
Okay.
So it really changes that training style. So in my high school program, I get them 5 days a week, and I can, a day in a week might be, if we don't have any games, then I'm going to spread out that higher level fitness where we're doing it throughout the training program, or the training session. And then we're going to go really technical, and then we're going to go really tactical. So it's really going to be, where am I going to focus their brain? And we're going to hit it all in the week, but not every aspect of the field. So if you're on my high school soccer team and we're preseason, then I'm probably going to spend a whole week, maybe the majority of week, on building out of the back. So attacking, starting from the goalkeeper, what does that look like? So we're going to start technically, making sure that our passes are down, our touches are down. What kind of passes am I looking for? And then we're going to build into the tactical. How do I want it to happen? What are the options? If it looks like A, B, and C, where are we going with the ball, and how do we get it into the next third of the field, to the middle third? And so by the end of the week, we're just getting into that middle third of the field. And the purpose of that is that you guys are coaches, I can tell you something today, and my memory span is like that. They're not going to remember it tomorrow if I immediately move on to the next area of the field. So we're just repeating it, and we're going back in a game-like scenario. For my travel team, it's very similar, but again, I'm only having them 3 days a week. So I really talk to them about their responsibility. I'm going to set up training sessions where it's very physical, but I'm not spending an hour doing fitness where it's just fitness without a ball. It's going to be fitness within a game-like scenario. So that means
you're tricking them.
I've set up a training session that's high intensity. Maybe the space is smaller, so you're running constantly, less rep, more reps, less rest in between. So things like that. But the same scope and sequence is there, in the sense that I'm probably going to do, if we're working on attacking, I might start in the middle third of the field. How am I moving the ball through the middle third of the field? And then by that last training session of the week, we're touching on getting it into the attacking third. And then the next week, we start with getting it into the attacking third, and then we finish it with finishing.
Okay.
So it's kind of that constant where everything has to go together so it makes sense and it flows well.
Nice. Now, in your previous response, we were talking about like the year plan and the week plan and that. You said like after a weekend where you had a tournament, you were minus 196 or something like that. Did I hear that right? What are you calculating there? And I'm guessing it's a practice to game ratio or something, but it was interesting. I wanted to expand.
You want to touch on that? Sorry. Yeah. So any soccer coaches out there with U.S. Soccer, like, that makes sense. Some other people are asking the exact same question. So when you play a soccer game, if you play a full soccer game, your body is depleted 96 hours for one soccer game. So that means it's going to take your body 96 hours to get back up to peak performance. That doesn't mean that you can't train hard before then. It's usually about 72 hours where you can hit a good threshold again of a training session. but it's that recovery ratio. I know it's a lot of conversation right now.
Oh, you're good. I'm interested in it.
Yeah, this is awesome.
And so with U.S. soccer, I have a USB license, and so a lot of going through that licensure is understanding that periodization so that we can prevent injuries, especially life-altering injuries.
Yeah.
Females ACLs. Really making sure that we are allowing the bodies to recover, but not to the point where I'm saying go sit out because you're not well. So to answer your specific question, so after a weekend of tournament soccer, and I'm assuming hockey's similar, let's say you play 3 to 4 games in a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That first game, let's say we go in and we have prepared perfectly and we are at 0, which means we have no recovery needed. We are fully ready to play. After that first game on a Saturday morning, you're at negative 96, and then you have to play 2 hours later. And so I'm negative again. And then you show up Sunday morning and have to play another game. And goodness, I hate it, but sometimes you have to play that 4th game. So now we roll into Monday, and our body is unbelievably depleted. Where I have seen on my periodization, I'm at a negative 196 hours, and I have another tournament the next week. And so how do I manage that load throughout the week where we're still learning, we're still growing, we're not taking the whole week off, but I'm also not putting them in a position where they're going to tear their ACL come Friday.
Protected practice.
Correct.
Yeah. Now that brings me to my next point. Would that be a week where you'd like to use a lot of video work? We can get in the video room also, since it's good for recovery since you're not running your muscles and everything.
Yes, I would love to. So I do love using video. I don't have it as much in my club environment, not because it's not available. We can make it available easily. But I love getting the girls out there. So a lot of times on a recovery practice, it would be a much lighter practice. Maybe we only go an hour. I'll go out there and I'll pull up clips from our previous game of the weekend. I'll throw out some positive clips, some negative clips, just some good video out there. And then we will go over a light, maybe passing pattern, a long stretch, might bring out the bands, we'll bring out the rollers. So it's actually better for the body to get some kind of activity the next day, to get the acid out of the muscles, get your muscles moving, and then rest for 24 hours and then come back into it. So yes, I do like to use video. I bring the iPad out, or sometimes we'll go into a classroom that we have, and we'll go over aspects of what did we work on last week? Okay, I've pulled up some highlights of where we were successful, where we were unsuccessful, and how do we turn those unsuccessful moments into successful moments.
Nice. And so in soccer, and you're running a club, how does the club differentiate from like a private skills coach in that world? Do you guys practice the same things, or you know what I mean? So, because in hockey, we can slow it down a lot when it's just you and one person. And in the club, is that how it works there, or are you familiar with that?
No, we don't do a lot of private within the club atmosphere. I've worked privately with players, so I understand what you're talking about. And there's a lot of similarity with hockey and soccer in the sense of, it's team. I'm sure I would assume that your rink is, when you're coaching, is set up in thirds or however you do it. But within the club, it is all team centric in the sense that even if I'm working with the strikers or one striker, it's not so much let's work on shooting. It's let's work on receiving the ball from a midfielder, or how did I check away, in that tactical aspect of being able to, we call it soccer IQ, reading the game so that I'm aware of my next moment before it ever happens. Gotcha. So it's more of the club, it's more of a team mindset. We do have one program that we're doing right now. Our executive director, John Sharman, he has taken any of the girls. We take a break right now for high school soccer. So we don't play during school season. So right now, 90% of all my players are in their school soccer season. And so we don't see them other than going to watch their games. We don't train with them at all. There's a small handful of girls that just have chosen for whatever reason not to play school soccer. And so he has a lot of college coaching experience, and he's taking them into a training session. They meet 2 to 3 times a week, and he takes them through a proper preseason where you're doing more technical, more of that kind of stuff. How do you shield? So things that he can work on individually, like you're talking about skill set, so that when they come back into a team environment, they've improved those smaller moments.
Now, is that just your area that it's not as common to work with a private skills coach, or is that all over? I'm not familiar in the soccer world in the private coaching.
I'm going to say yes and no. Clubs typically don't offer as much of that as they do maybe in other sports. I know my son plays baseball and loves baseball, and we do private hitting lessons. Like it is a very technical sport. So we will go work with hitting for an hour and a half with a coach, twice a week. But with soccer, it is such a team-centric sport that a lot of that technical work needed to be really set in stone at a younger age so that we can understand that tactical team atmosphere. That being said, because I'm sure people are going to watch this and they're going to say, no, my kid goes to a private skills coach. There's nothing wrong with that. And it does happen. And that's sometimes kind of going back to that question you asked me before when I played, what was the difference? How could you make yourself shine above somebody else? Sometimes it is that. Have they worked with somebody privately or on their own to know how to do those ball skills to take on a player? But it's not an individual sport. Even as a goalkeeper, it's just not an individual sport at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, we see that in hockey where at the higher levels, and even at the lower levels, I'll get parents that ask me like, why can't you stop it and fix this one little thing for this person? I'm like, no. There's 20 other people out on this ice. Like I have to
doing this all day. We won't go anywhere.
Yeah, like when your son or daughter has a bad shot, do I see the mistake they made? Yes. And in my private coaching world, we would go and fix that one thing. But in the middle of a practice, I can't stop everybody and be like, hey, when you go to take that shot, make sure you move that top hand back another 3 inches. I saw it. I have to put that in the back of my mind. And a lot of those players we also do individual training with, so I can kind of file that away, and then the next lesson becomes more productive because I've seen those mistakes in the team world. But definitely when we hit the ice with the team, it's about the team. It's about building that. There are skills that we work on, but it's what does the team need skill wise and team need technical or tactically tactical wise, not what the one person on that team needs at that point in time.
Yeah. Now, goalkeeping is different. I would say that, like, I would encourage any goalkeeper to go out and find a private coach because it is such a technical individual. It's still team. I don't want to go back to what I said earlier because you everything is changing, but it's very, very technical. And so that's why we have those goalkeeper camps, right? Versus striker camps.
Yep.
Now, in my training sessions, a lot of times I like to coach within the flow. So if we are working on scoring, finishing, and I see somebody repeatedly hit a ball in a certain way, like I'll pull them aside and be like, okay, here's your cue. This is, we've talked about this. This is how you do it. But I love to show players cues on how they know if they did it correctly. So a soccer ball is really, really it's its own teacher. So if you're trying to hit a ball a certain way, the way the ball spins is going to tell you how and where you hit that ball. And teaching a player that opens up their world to basically coach themselves in that moment. Okay, I tried to shoot the ball, or I tried to hit a long ball, and it was spinning sideways and backwards. Oh, well, then I kicked it on the outside and underneath, and I wanted to kick it here.
Okay. Go ahead, Coach.
I got one thing. Outside of this, the one video review you did on On-Call Coaches, that parent sent me a note back that was like, oh my gosh, mind blown for that exact reason. You were talking about the spin on the ball, the way his son was kicking it, and he was like, that was so amazing, like never thought of that, and has helped him progress in striking the ball. So it's funny that came up with you talking about that, but that was actually an email I got back from that parent that was like, please pass that on to Jessica. That was like mind blowing. Just to look at the spin of the ball.
Great.
Yeah. last thing I like to talk about here is the video coaching. And the two-part question here. First part is how is a player successful in soccer using video as a tool to help their progression and their development? And then two, how do you recommend they video themselves? Like, even we talk goalie specific. How do you want that video to come to you? You want 5 minutes of them standing in goal? Do you want it more of like a highlight reel? Tell me a little bit about it. And then finally, what do you cost on-call coaches for a review?
Okay, absolutely. Great questions. So first, I think any sport, any player can grow out of video. I think we are in a day where video is so readily available that it's silly not to use it, whether it's because your team is taking a video of you. And I mean, I don't know what hockey uses, but soccer, we have so many different platforms, so many different softwares where every team is videoing their games, and they can even have these highlights within them, and the parents can pay subscription. So anything like that is great. I would take it a step further and say that if you were trying to grow to the next level, getting video of training, getting that specific training moments where you're working on something, and then studying it yourself, watching other video of players who are at the elite level, whether in a game situation or a YouTube video, because it's such their hands right now. It's everywhere. Watching them in specific areas that you want to grow in, and then watching a video of yourself and learning from those moments. Me particularly with on-call coaches, when someone is videoing them, I think the two best angles for me, like if they were sending me a video of a practice, I would love the angle from being behind the goal.
Oh, okay.
Especially if it was a game-like situation. That way I can see the footwork of the goalkeeper, the positioning of where they are based on where the shooter is coming from, so that they have their angle correct, they have their distance correct, and then the build-up. So a lot of times people just think of goalkeepers as that moment where the shot happens, but it's really did I direct my defense to prevent the shot from happening, and was I in the right position to get back and get where I needed to go to be prepared for the shot? Did I get set at time? Did I read it correctly? A lot of it is mental, in all honesty. But also game highlights. It's the same thing. Game highlights are great. Having a camera in front of a keeper while they take a few shots from a teammate or coach, and seeing their form from in front is also really helpful. If we're trying to make sure that we're diving correctly, we're catching the ball correctly. But if you're trying to grow as a keeper, I would say game highlights and a shot from behind where I can see all the aspects building up in your body position and your hands. Because I can't, if you're looking at me and there's a ball in front of my hands, I can't see where your hands are positioned as well as if I'm looking from behind you. I see which hand goes, which hand collects, how we land, and then we can go from there.
Perfect. And then what's your minute rate on-call coaches?
I believe it's $5 a minute.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you meeting with us and talking about this. Tons of insight on the development in the soccer world, and then that hour counter is really cool. I'm gonna dig into that a little more. I think that could be utilized on hockey because it gets crazy. We got 5 games and weekends now, so it could probably be spread across the table in hockey a little bit.
And then they come back home and play high school because we don't break in St. Louis, so our top AAA players are going and playing 5-6 games in a weekend, and then come back in Monday night.
We got another game.
We got a game for the high school team. So yeah, it's a big drain on the system, and we see some of those overuse injuries
big time
throughout the year, or you're just tired and the physicality of hockey. You go into a corner and you get a bad check. Well, if you were fresh, you wouldn't have taken the check that way, but you were a little bit
lazy.
You got a little lazy.
Went reaching.
Yeah, and all of a sudden now you've got a concussion or a broken collarbone or something like that. So I love that the hour counter. Definitely, Switz, we should dive into that more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, Jessica, thanks a lot. This was awesome. And Zane said you might be coming to town. Make sure you look us up. Give us a holler when you do.
Yeah.
And that's it
Well,
for us at On-Call Coaches. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
We'll see you.
Thank you.